Get off the property! Get off of the property!
Guardsman accused of killing his neighbor in New Jersey to become famous on TikTok is now spending time in the Lee County jail.
You've probably seen those people online who'll just do about anything for a few measly views, right? I bet you haven't heard about Zachary Latham, a guy whose TikTok obsession went so far it actually cost someone their life. He tortured his neighbors, the Durham family, for 2 years. And when his audience started loving his nasty videos, things took a turn that the Durham family will never forget, and will likely never stop cursing him for. But everything has a start, right? So does the story of Zachary Latham, who started TikTok without having any hidden talent or charm. This guy didn't care about singing, dancing, or whatever else normal teens do online. Instead, he figured out early on that if he drove like a maniac and stirred up drama, he could turn that madness into viral gold. Here's a look of what Durham's family went through.
Them a report, what do you mean?
I gave the EMTs a report of what happened, the findings that I had, and the stab wound to the arm and under the armpit, and then they asked me to leave.
At just 16, while most of us were just learning how to parallel park without sweating bullets, Latham was out there tearing up the quiet streets of Vineland, like he was auditioning for Fast and Furious, speeding and revving his precious Corvette's engine at all hours, and generally acting like the entire neighborhood was his personal racetrack. Rules, manners, respect for your neighbors, who needs those when you're chasing likes and views? For Latham, his neighbors were just like NPCs in his game of TikTok stardom, background noise until they became part of the show. And trust me, his TikTok was full of footage where he'd recklessly drive down the street, making as much noise as humanly possible. And guess who his unlucky co-stars were? The Durham family, living just a few houses away. And William Durham Sr., though, wasn't just some random, mild-mannered guy. Nope, this man was a corrections officer at Southwood State Prison, a seasoned, no-nonsense type of guy who had seen way worse things at work than some snot-nosed teenager with a Corvette. He had spent nearly 2 decades dealing with tough characters, and you could bet he wasn't about to be pushed around by a kid who thought TikTok views were more important than basic human decency. William Sr. lived a simple, hard-working life with his wife, Catherine, and their 2 sons, William Jr. and Gage, in a quiet neighborhood. You know, the kind of suburban life. The moment Latham showed up with his revved up engine and a complete disregard for anyone around him.
You said I'm an Yeah?
Now, being the responsible neighbor that he was, William Sr. did what any rational adult would do. He approached Latham, hoping a bit of good old-fashioned neighborly conversation might fix things. Maybe explain in a calm and fatherly way that residential streets aren't exactly the place to live out your Vin Diesel fantasies. Latham wasn't the type to be swayed by reason. Sure, he pretended to apologize at first, even going as far as to visit the Durham home. For a hot second, it almost seemed like the kid might change his ways. But nah, Zachary had no intention of letting this end quietly. That apology? Pure performance. The dude had his sights set on a bigger, more chaotic goal.
Why are you guys recording when you came out of us first? Just like you were. You wanted to join him today, right?
When?
Okay, what?
When?
When?
Yeah.
You don't remember? Today when you were driving this light and you swerved and pushed him against the curb?
I didn't push me against the curb.
You did?
Yeah. You guys have a video? You guys have a video? Because I didn't do that.
Yeah, we do have a little video.
I'd like to see it.
The cops already saw it.
Oh,
that sucks.
I know I didn't, you guys.
You did. You're right here in this room.
What, him or him? I honked at him because he was in the way. I didn't hit him.
Then things got real ugly. Latham wasn't just satisfied with annoying the Durhams. He had to take it farther. Catherine Durham became his main target, his very own personal Karen. Now let's be clear here. Catherine was just a normal mom trying to protect her family and neighborhood. But to Zachary, she was the perfect antagonist for his TikTok theatrics. He started filming every interaction with her, twisting each moment into content gold. And his TikTok audience, the more he posted, the more views he got. It didn't take long before his videos of taunting Catherine, calling her a Karen, went viral. Like millions of views viral. Have a look at how ridiculous someone can be. But here's the thing, Catherine's frustration wasn't her being unreasonable. She had every right to be upset. For 2 whole years, this kid had been making their lives hell, and every time they tried to stop it, They just became more content for his viral stunts. What's even worse is that with every attempt to confront Latham, the situation escalated. On the screen right now, you can see the post Zachary made, telling his audience to stay tuned for the next round of Karen drama with Catherine. Catherine wasn't just the neighbor who was fed up. She had unknowingly become the villain in Zachary's twisted TikTok narrative, a character for his followers to mock and ridicule. And Zachary? Oh, he was thriving. The more hate he got, the more it fueled him to keep going.
Get out of his face. No.
Get out of my face.
Get out of his face. Oh, did you hit me? Did you hit me? Ow!
You didn't on video, right?
And let's not forget the Durhams tried everything. They spoke to him, they called the cops, they tried to handle it in every reasonable way possible. But every effort to stop him was just more ammo for Zachary's online persona. He wasn't stopping. Why would he? When his follower count was climbing higher by the day. The pandemic certainly didn't help either. Courts and local services were overwhelmed, so it felt like the Durhams were completely trapped. They were stuck in a nightmare with no way out, as their private lives became public entertainment for thousands of people who had no idea what kind of toll this was taking on the family. And then came the day, May 4th, 2020, the day that flipped the Durham's family life upside down in an instant.
Tensions reached an all-time high back on May 4th, 2020, when a fight broke out between defendant Zach Latham and the Durham family. During that altercation, Latham stabbed his 51-year-old neighbor multiple times, ultimately causing his death.
Everything they had endured for 2 long years with Zachary Latham, all the tension, the drama, the harassment, it all exploded in the worst possible way. The whole mess started with what should have been a peaceful afternoon. Gage Durham, the youngest of the family, was just out on his bike, minding his own business, riding down Thornhill Road like any other 17-year-old would. But of course, in true Latham fashion, Zachary saw this as an opportunity to make things worse. This time, though, it wasn't just some reckless driving. Instead, Latham swerved his pickup truck right at Gage, coming inches away from hitting him. This was Zachary making a point, and Gage knew it. It wasn't just annoying anymore, it was a full-on threat.
Back out. Back up. Babe! Get off of my property.
Now William Durham Sr., the rock of the family, had officially had enough. He faced all kinds of tough characters as a corrections officer, but this was personal. His family's safety was on the line, and after countless calls to the police and attempts to talk things out, nothing had changed. But when his son's life was nearly taken by some maniac trying to play TikTok tough guy, William wasn't about to sit back anymore. Enough was enough, so the whole Durham crew, William Sr., his wife Catherine, and their sons Gage and William, piled into their car, determined to put an end to this madness once and for all. They weren't driving over there to start a brawl. They were just fed up, looking for a way to stop the chaos that had taken over their lives. But Latham? Oh, he was ready for them. This guy wasn't thinking about defusing the situation or making peace. Nah, Zachary had a different plan. By the time the Durhams arrived, Latham had armed himself with 2 knives and a stun gun. He wasn't interested in talking or reasoning, or admitting he'd gone too far. He was ready for a showdown. To top it off, his wife Sarah was outside too, phone in hand recording the entire encounter on TikTok. Like this was just the next episode in the reality show he turned their lives into. This wasn't just some petty neighborhood beef anymore. This was something dark and dangerous, and it was about to explode. As soon as the Durhams pulled up, Catherine tried to talk to him, recording the interaction on her phone, asking him why he swerved at her son earlier. But Zachary, with his stun gun out, he fired at them, shocking them, literally and emotionally. If you thought things couldn't get any crazier, they did this. Latham's buddies, Moses Rios and Dylan Aristi, stood by watching like they were about to witness some backyard fight. while Latham pulled out his knives, making it clear this was going to be ugly. William Sr., being the protector that he was, didn't back down. He stepped in, trying to stop Latham before things escalated. But Latham was already too far gone. In the chaos, Zachary slashed at William's arm, leaving him bleeding but still determined to protect his family. He chased Latham into the garage, and that's where everything truly went off the rails. You can't really see much clearly in this video, but it was recorded while Sarah was trying to film Latham's reckless behavior. What happened inside that garage was brief, but it was brutal. Latham used the stun gun repeatedly, but it wasn't enough to stop William Sr. In the heat of the moment, Latham drove one of his knives under William's armpit, puncturing his lung and leaving him collapsed on the garage floor. He wasn't done though. Latham stabbed him multiple times before the altercation ended.
Get off of the property!
By the time it was all over, William Durham Sr. lay on the cold garage floor, mortally wounded. A man who spent his life serving his community, a father who had been trying to protect his family from the nightmare that was Zachary Latham, was now dying because of one teenager's thirst for TikTok fame. The police were called at 7:48 p.m., but it was already too late. William was rushed to the hospital, but despite the doctor's best efforts, he was pronounced dead at 9:19 p.m. Just like that, the family's life was shattered. And Latham? Well, even as he was taken to the hospital himself covered in blood and bruises, his main focus wasn't on what he had done, or the fact that a man had died. No, his focus was on spinning the story to fit his narrative. When questioned by the police, Latham claimed self-defense, saying the Durhams had come to his house to attack him, and he had no choice but to defend himself and his wife.
Aggravated manslaughter, aggravated assault, possession of a weapon for unlawful purpose, aggravated assault with attempt to cause serious bodily injury, and unlawful possession of a weapon. Realize what that means?
Yeah.
And I know it's a kick in the face, but your actions, everybody's actions cause, you know what I'm saying? Your actions cause this man's death.
He's
You didn't know that.
what?
Yeah.
No.
That's aggravated manslaughter.
And so Zachary Latham walks into the courtroom. The burning question on everyone's mind: was this some kind of twisted self-defense, or had Latham orchestrated the entire thing to fuel his social media addiction? I mean, you know things are bad when your defense attorney's first line of attack is basically, "It wasn't Zachary's fault, Your Honor. He was just defending himself from an entire family." Yep, that's right. Nathan Perry, Latham's lawyer, was going all in on this angle. He painted the Durham family as a gang of angry pitchfork-wielding neighbors who stormed Zachary's house out for blood.
He has no duty to retreat in his home. There's no duty to retreat in the face of an attack in your own home. He doesn't have to give any explanation why he didn't retreat or anything of the sort. So please understand that right from the beginning.
Perry even threw in the injuries Latham had, concussion, bruises, all that, as proof that the kid was fighting for his life, not for TikTok views. And just in case the jury wasn't totally on board, Perry reminded them about New Jersey's no duty to retreat law. If you're in your home and feel threatened, you don't have to back down. So technically Latham had every right to stand his ground, right? And look how big of an actor he was. But hold up, the prosecution had a very different story to tell, and they weren't buying the whole self-defense narrative for 1 second. Assistant prosecutor Charles Wetstein portrayed Zachary as a master manipulator, pulling strings behind the scenes for years, setting up the final showdown like it was all part of his grand plan for social media fame. And get this, the prosecution didn't just blame Zachary. They dragged Sarah Latham into it too, because she was filming everything.
Something else interesting about this, the whole incident was captured on camera.
The prosecution hammered this point home. Why in the middle of what was supposedly a life-threatening attack would she be standing there with her phone, making sure not a single second of the chaos went unrecorded? It wasn't just bad judgment, it was part of the plan. Wetstein's theory was that the couple knew what they were doing all along. They knew the Durhams would show up, and they were ready, not for a fight, but for content. Viral, chaos-fueled content.
It was a defendant's wife who filmed this. And it's also my understanding she's on the state's witness list. She's going to be called by them to talk about filming it. Why? Why was she filming it? You know, we know the prosecution is coming out and saying this Zachary Latham was trying to be a TikTok star, that he's filming his neighbors, he's acting up.
Sarah's role was like a dark cloud hanging over the entire trial. The jury had to ask themselves, if they were so scared, why didn't she call the police? Why was her first instinct to film? It made Latham's claim of self-defense look pretty weak when you've got your wife standing there, holding up her phone like she's at a concert, making sure the drama is caught from every angle.
Disrupting the peace, being socially unacceptable, all of it because he wanted to be TikTok famous. And the more he did it, the more likes he got on TikTok. Now, why his wife was filming it, not so sure. But let's talk about how this could cut both ways.
As the trial went on, it became an online spectacle. Latham, who started as a small-time TikTok wannabe, had now become the poster boy for everything wrong with social media obsession. People weren't just judging whether or not he was guilty of manslaughter. They were having a whole debate about social media, fame, and where the line between reality and performance gets dangerously blurred. And after this absolute disaster, you'd think Zachary Latham would have some kind of epiphany, right? But nope, Latham dove headfirst into his social media life once again, talking about the murder and engaging with people like it was just another trending topic. He wasn't treating the situation like a life-shattering tragedy. He was treating it like fuel for his next round of internet fame. The wildest part, it worked. People flocked to his TikTok, hungry for updates, and Zachary fed that curiosity with chilling nonchalance, completely forgetting he was in the headlines once for all the wrong reasons.
Just let me know when you're ready, ma'am, okay?
I'm fine, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Not a problem.
No remorse, no reflection, just more content for the masses. But let's not forget, life outside of TikTok wasn't exactly smooth sailing either. Zachary, in all of his wisdom, decided to relocate to Florida while waiting for his trial, probably hoping for some fresh sunshine and a break from the drama. Well, that didn't quite go as planned. By January 2021, he was back in trouble, because of course he was. This time he was arrested in Fort Myers after threatening another driver in a road rage incident with a BB gun that looked suspiciously like an AK-47. Yep, that's right, not even a full year after the Durham family tragedy, and Latham's out there scaring random motorists with a fake rifle. It was as if trouble followed him everywhere, or more likely he couldn't stop himself from diving headfirst into it.
We're going to ask you to watch the defendant's face. We're going to ask you to watch their actions. We agree. The Durhams went down to the defendant's home. Yes, they did. They intended to confront the defendant. Yes. But the defendant escalated that confrontation inappropriately with the use of deadly force. He sought to use a deadly weapon, a knife. He had that knife ready and waiting for the Durhams to arrive. And you're going to see through the evidence that's anticipated that the defendant did not honestly or reasonably believe that deadly force was necessary. That the defendant could have retreated inside of his home, including his garage, and he would have been in complete safety. And therefore, it fails to justify the use of deadly force against Tom and Billy.
And after that, his trial was about more than just Zachary Latham. It became a symbol of the dangerous lengths people would go for that blue check verification, for those views and followers. The prosecution, led by Charles Wetstein, didn't hold back. They painted Latham as a TikTok puppet master, pulling strings and pushing the Durham's buttons, knowing exactly how to provoke them into action. When the verdict came, it was complicated. Latham was found guilty of manslaughter but not first-degree murder.
The judge is going to explain the charges and the elements that comprise each and every one of those charges. He's going to explain to you what the law is. And until that time, we're going to ask you that you look at the defendant's conduct. Look and decide if that conduct was reckless and if that reckless conduct caused Tim Durham's death. We're going to ask you to look at the defendant's choices. When and where did he make them? When did he decide to get the knife? Now, we can all sit here and think back to when we ourselves have acted recklessly. Maybe we've done something we shouldn't have. Maybe we were in a place we weren't meant to be. But being reckless in a legal sense is more than that.
The jury's decision reflected the murky nature of the case. Latham had acted recklessly, but the Durhams had played their part in escalating things that day. Both sides were devastated. The Durhams felt justice hadn't been fully served for William's death, and Zachary, though not convicted of murder, still faced the consequences of his actions. And the world? Well, it was left with a cautionary tale. The story about the dangerous intersection of social media and real life, where the quest for online fame could have very real and very deadly consequences. I'm sure you're not glued to TikTok like Zachary Latham, but if you happen to be, or if your kids are spending a little too much time chasing those likes, maybe take a second look. Because honestly, the whole thing shows just how dangerous that obsession can get. See you with another creepy TikToker in the next video. Until then, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.